Miranda v. Arizona. Miranda v. Arizona is one of the largest landmark Supreme Court cases. It helped clearly lay out the rights we have due to our Fifth and Sixth Amendments. Ernesto Miranda was convicted of kidnapping and raping an 18-year-old girl, after which he was interrogated for 2 hours by police. Not long after, he gave a detailed oral confession and then wrote and signed a brief statement admitting and describing the crime. This was all done without his knowledge of the right to remain silent. This procedure was accomplished without any effective warnings to the accused by the police. Miranda was then convicted with his confession used as evidence. Ernesto Miranda was deprived of his civil liberties, so an effect of the case was to release a new set of rights known as Miranda rights. These rights make sure that government officials notify those who are accused of certain liberties, such as the right to remain silent. Miranda sets this benchmark for all cases. This case challenges the constitutionality of actions taken against Ernesto Miranda by police and the validity of information obtained during this case. Ernesto Miranda was born on March 9, 1941, in Columbus, Ohio. When he was a child, he was beaten by his father due to the absence of his late mother, who died when he was 6. His father remarried, but Miranda never had the same type of relationship with his stepmother. Ernesto Miranda did not do well in school and got in trouble with the law. He soon became a 9th grade dropout with a criminal record. He was arrested several times for several different crimes. He enlisted in the army, but it wasn't long until he was let go. After some time, he started to get his act together. Before his arrest, he was a truck driver and was thought to be suffering from mental illness, which may have explained some of his actions. After the case, Miranda never really adjusted back to normal life. He was murdered over a poker gamble in Phoenix, Arizona. Miranda was an important figure in American law and gave a lot to the advancement of the court system and the interpretation of the Constitution. When Miranda was 23 years old, he committed the crime that led to the court case of Miranda v. Arizona. In 1963, he was taken out of his home and arrested for the kidnap and rape of a moderately troubled 18-year-old girl, Rebecca Ann Johnson. The girl was able to identify him in a conviction line. Miranda later signed a confession saying that, with full knowledge of my legal rights, understanding any statement I make may be used against me. Miranda at the time did not know that he had the right not to talk to the police or interrogators, nor did he know that he had the right to an attorney. In June 1963, the case went underway in an Arizona state court. Miranda's lawyer tried to plead that Miranda was insane, but this backfired. After being tried, convicted, and sentenced 20 to 30 years in prison, Miranda appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. John Flynn and John Frank represented Miranda in the Supreme Court. Miranda won in a 5-4 Supreme Court decision because the police failed to inform Ernesto Miranda of his right to an attorney and against self-incrimination. In Miranda v. Arizona, the court, in a 5-4 decision, reversed 4 criminal convictions in which the accused had been interrogated without being informed of their rights and were persuaded to make confessions. Supreme Court Justice during the case of Miranda v. Arizona was Chief Justice Earl Warren. He made the decision about the Miranda case, saying that it was unconstitutional because the information was obtained without the accused being read his rights. Earl Warren was appointed by President Dwight Eisenhower in 1953 as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. At one time, Dwight Eisenhower said, "He represents the kind of political, economic, and social thinking that I believe we need on the Supreme Court." Chief Justice Earl Warren made many liberal decisions, including the decision of Brown v. Board of Education, that revolutionized the court and the court system's way of thinking. Miranda v. Arizona has had a big impact on following cases. Today, the Miranda warning is given to all criminal suspects in police custody before the suspect's words are held against them. Police repeat to the suspect, "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer, and have him present with you while you are being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning, if you wish. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions or make any statements. Lastly, the police are required to ask the suspected criminal if they understand each of these rights explained to them, and having these rights in mind, do they wish to talk to them now? A Miranda warning is required to be spoken in any situation where a suspect is in police custody and the police want to ask a question in which the answer could be used as evidence in a trial. The Miranda warning protects citizens' Fifth and Sixth Amendments. The main protection of the Sixth Amendment in the Miranda warning is the right to a lawyer. It is clearly stated in the fourth line of the warning. The Fifth Amendment protects against self-incrimination. This is restated in the Miranda warning by telling the suspect they have the right to remain silent. The rules of the Miranda rights today are much like they were during the time of Miranda v Arizona. They are only required if police intend to ask you questions and interrogate you about your crime, and you are in custody of law enforcement. Any information used by police and not given willingly by suspects, or suspects not understanding Miranda rights, is not okay to be used, and that information was obtained unconstitutionally, therefore is not valid in the case. Another important idea of using your Miranda rights today is that any statement you make willingly, knowing your Miranda rights, could be used against you in court. Also, using your Miranda rights and choosing to remain silent can't be used against you. This means that it can't be suggested in court that you kept quiet because you are guilty or have something to hide. Many lawyers today suggest that you remain silent and use your Fifth and Sixth Amendments. These protect you in court and protect you from answering self-incriminating questions that could prove you are guilty, such as Ernesto Miranda did.